Now tonight we decided to discuss the ongoing voter registration across the country, presided by the Electoral Commission of Zambia, ECZ, an institution that has been labeled incompetent. Let's find out more in this discussion. My guest on the program is Chief Electoral Officer Nshindano is here as my guest. Once again, allow me to officially welcome all those that have been sending their messages on Ask Muvi. I want to assure you that moving on, we'll be able to submit all the questions that you managed to forward to us, being the conveyors of your information. Those that we can't manage to forward will be able to hand over, hence the reason why I'm holding to all these files that contain the questions that you forwarded to us, and we'll be able to hand over to Mr. Patrick Nshindano. Mr. Nshindano, welcome to the Furnace. Rather special program. I'm used to the Furnace. Special program, rather.
Thank you for having me. And,
fantastic.
Excited to read what's in that folder.
Isn't it?
It looks humongous, so it makes for an interesting evening.
Right. Basically, this is your file. I should make mention. Yeah. There are a lot of questions that viewers have been sending, emails as well as others sending questions through our Facebook page. So we thought of giving to you before we end the program.
Great, thank you. Looking forward to it, and thank you for taking the initiative to collect those views. We've been receiving a lot of views on our different platforms, but like we've always indicated, the Commission is an open institution, and we want to receive as much feedback as possible from the public, both good and bad, because that is how you build the institutions. Fantastic.
We've started with a smile. I think that's something I'm very happy about it. Both of us are smiling.
Yes.
But on a side note, the viewers watching us, the people of Zambia, are not happy. They can't smile when they see you because of the confusion going on surrounding the ongoing voter registration. What's going on? What has happened? Allow me to begin by asking you, in terms of from Monday when you launched this exercise, how many voters have you registered so far, as of yesterday?
Before I even get that far, first allow me to thank the Zambian citizens. The Commission did put out a call before we commenced the exercise that Zambians should turn out in numbers and register themselves. We are undertaking voter registration exercise, and that call has been heard very loudly, and the response has been extremely overwhelming. We are actually humbled by the response from the Zambian public, and we thank all the stakeholders that have gone outright there to mobilize citizens to ensure that they register. And now the onus remains on the part of the Commission. We have a good problem on our hands in terms of the turnout. Like you are saying, most of the Zambians are not smiling, and justifiable so. Nobody likes to stay in a queue for a very long time. You want, whenever you're going somewhere and you're doing something, you're able to be dealt with and processed, whatever it is that you're doing, in good time. I personally just get frustrated even when I'm just buying groceries. What more where you have to undertake your civic duty as important as voter registration. And we don't take that lightly. We do recognize the different responsibility that our citizens have. They have to engage in a lot of productive ventures to be able to survive. This is a rainy season. We have farmers that have to go. We have regions where they depend on this part of, on this time of the season. For example, in the northern, we have people that have to go and pick caterpillars. And they have to sacrifice that. The caterpillar will not wait that, no, I've gone to register with the Electoral Commission of Zambia. No, it will not do that. And we do recognize that. We just started this week. And of course, there have been some teething problems. Like I said, this is a good problem for us. We want the numbers. Now the onus is on the Commission. What do we do to ensure that we put smiles back on the Zambian citizens and we capture the required numbers so that when the exercise is concluded, we are able to smile, all of us, and say, yes, we have met our targets, and this is what we wanted. And this is important for our democracy. Democracy is about representation. It is important for our institutional building, because we need to build our governance systems as a country. And so far, we will give statistics on a weekly basis. This will be done through our Honor the Vice President, and this will be given to you. at this point in time, it will be very difficult for me to give you the numbers. I'll definitely not give you the exact numbers because they're being collected and they're yet to be synced centrally. So each kit is not logged into the system. So we'll give those numbers and we'll endeavor to ensure that very periodically, at least every week, we update the nation on where we are at, saying this is how good we have done or this is how bad we have done. How best do we pick it up from where we are currently? And it's very, very important and critical for us to do that.
All right. What is your target number? For the sake of those people that stood behind in terms of the overall figure you want to achieve as the Commission in the next 30 days?
Firstly, I must mention that the Commission is guided by a constitutional mandate. When you look at who is eligible to vote, there is a very clear criteria, very simple one. It talks about one being 18 years plus.
Sure.
And in this time around, we have set ourselves that anybody who's 18 years plus by the time it is 9th May 2021, they need to be part of the register. And when you look at the Zambia Statistical Agency, when you look at that bracket of citizens, it estimates around 8.8 to 9 million. And we cannot differentize anyone in that category. So we need to aim at capturing everybody that is in that category. We can't say we are going to set ourselves a benchmark lower than that. No. We have to ensure that everybody, as per requirement, as per set by the Constitution, that target is set and fixed for us. We have no choice but to be able to do that. Whether we meet it or not, that's another debate. But in terms of what we need to focus on is to ensure that everybody is captured. And so far, we are quite excited by the turnout. This is why I said it's a good problem for us as a Commission. We did say that voter registration is a two-way stream. One is the Commission doing its part, Commission's preparedness, to be able to ensure we capture the number. The other is to ensure that the citizens also do their civic duty by turning up. And yes, indeed, the citizens have done just that for the first period that we are starting. They've turned out in numbers. Now it's up to the Commission to ensure that we also pull up our socks and mop up the citizens. But also in mopping up the citizens, we ensure that the process is not a frustrating and we make it as smooth as possible. And we'll talk to some of the measures that we've put in place to try and alleviate some of the challenges that are there.
Contrary to what you've just talked about, you've mentioned that you are very happy as a Commission in terms of the turnout, by the people of Zambia. Very interesting. This goes to show you that people really wants to either remove the party in power or keep the party in power today. Hence the reason why they wake up in the morning to go and register as voters. But contrary to what we just talked about, the process really is frustrating.
Well, it's not contrary.
And just because of your failure to put your house in order.
No, it's not contrary. And I think that is something that I alluded to even at the beginning. That yes, indeed, we have acknowledged the challenges that are there. I think the common one is the slow pace of processing. So in terms of the turnout, it's something that we are very grateful. So there's no contradiction whatsoever in the position. I did allude to the fact that when you look at voter registration, it's a two-way relationship. You have to have citizens turning up. And you need to ensure that as a Commission, you perform your function very well. Have we performed that function extremely well? At this point in time, I would say no, we've got challenges in terms of the processing time. Like I said, nobody wants to wait a long time. When we put up our systems in place, our systems were set up to ensure that, for example, one who has done pre-online registration will take less than 5 minutes to register. One who's doing the entire process will take about 7 minutes or less to be able to register. That has not materialized fully. Not that it hasn't completely materialized, fully. And there are a number of reasons to that fact. Firstly, when you're starting a process, and even yourself, when you are given a process, say filling a form, you fill it in the first time, and the same form is given to you, you fill it in the second time. The third form, the third time, you see that by the time you're getting to the third filling in of that form, you have become so familiar to the form, the time you took in the first one and the time you took at the third one will be different. The third time, you do it much quicker. And we have noticed that incremental processing of the numbers from day one up to day where we are. And because people are getting warmed up to the equipment, they're getting to understand what they need to do, they're getting familiar where there are technical issues, some which they can immediately resolve in terms of the behavior of the equipment. They're getting familiar, and they're able to treat that and be able to capture the numbers. But of course, you have, depending on capacity of staff as well, some that are extremely brilliant, some that are quite slow in picking up, and you have that contrast. And you have areas that are doing extremely well, and you have areas that are still pulling up. And allow me to take this opportunity to thank my staff across the country, the officers that are registering, for the enormous work they're doing under a lot of pressure. They're doing a brilliant job, the men and women that we have out there, and I can only put my heart out to them. And they are continuing to work hard, and I'm sure the process will continue to improve. And we'll speak to some of the measures that we are putting in place, both to support the staff, but also to quicken the process.
Really, someone watching us right now and listening to you, giving all those justifications, you know, will get to wonder if at all the Commission really did prepare for this, you know, this exercise. It appears you've been ambushed. You know, not until you had to wait on a day when you begin to make mistakes. You know, for me, it doesn't add up. Where on the first day you begin to cause confusion as the Commission, when you had the entire time to prepare your people, to train them, you know, as well as yourself to prepare, have the equipment together and everything. You had to wait until Monday, you begin to make mistakes, and then you are here on a national broadcaster to say we have learned from the past mistakes and we want to correct. And we've issued a statement which you are saying you've put up measures going forward on how you had to remedy all these problems. Did you prepare for this?
Most definitely, and I think the notion that the Commission was unprepared and we are learning, by the way, I didn't say we've learned from our past mistakes. That is something we have just coined up.
Right.
We did prepare as a Commission, and this is something that we've been talking about all this throughout. We did deploy, and when you look at our deployment plan compared to the past, when we did the 2016-2015, the 2015 registration in 2016, it's nothing comparable to what we have on the ground now. The numbers are triple what we had. But of course we understand that this time around...
That's where preparation begins.
Exactly. This time around the process is different. The process this time entails, first and foremost, that is going to give birth to a new register.
Right.
Because we are going to capture both the old register, that is you and I, and I'm assuming you are a registered voter, you and I, who did register and participate. But in addition to that, we also want to capture the new voters. So the exercise and the robustness of it is different. But also what the message has gone out, which I'm saying is a very brilliant problem for us, is that citizens are aware of the limited time period that we are working with. And a lot of stakeholders have mobilized and come forward to undertake the exercise. Now the onus is on the Commission. In our preparedness, we are falling short. What do we do? Do we say, no, we didn't prepare adequately? No, you face on the challenge and say, how do we improve on the systems that are there so that we make it easier for the citizens to be able to register? And hence the measures that we are putting in place. If you allow me, I can get into those measures.
Before you get to those measures, but sadly, Mr. Nshindano, is that these concerns we're talking about are not only coming from maybe opposition political party leaders, that sometimes they may be perceived to be politicking, you know, over your institution, but that's including your sponsors or your appointing authority, who is the president, his political party really, lamented rather. That was on Tuesday somewhere there. And there was a very strong statement coming from Paul Mong, meaning they're not happy with you.
Correct.
How do you feel that the man that appointed you is upset with you as we speak?
We as a Commission, like I said, we have a good problem on our hand, which is of registration. Political stakeholders, it's understood the anxieties that are there. They want to ensure that every citizen is mobilized. We are getting into an election in 2021. We need to capture the numbers. They are working on the ground irrespective of whether you're a ruling party or you're an opposition. You want to make sure you have the numbers. And that concern is understood. And they will definitely power pressure, regardless of whether you are an appointing authority or not, because you have a political party mandate to fulfill. Well enough, the Commission has an independent mandate to fulfill. This also demonstrates to you the independence and legitimacy of the institution as a Commission. We do recognize the challenges we are facing, and by no means are we saying, no, the process has started off extremely smoothly. And that is something we have acknowledged, that yes, we have had hiccups, and we are working on those hiccups. What would be bad is to say, no, everything is perfect, and we are moving on as though nothing is going on. This is day 4, and the Commission already has started putting in place corrective measures to respond to the environment, and that's what one should be able to do. You look at the environment, what is pertaining on the ground? Are things working very well as you had planned? Yes. If yes, how do you build on that? If no, how do you rectify the challenge that you're faced with and ensure that that challenge is resolved, but in resolving that challenge you also improve in terms of what you're giving to the citizens. And we are doing exactly just that.
You've been accused that you are incompetent as ECZ.
Well,
you are inept.
Well, those are accusations, and I would not want to get in. And
those accusations, again, they've been, people have been vindicated as we speak. Because what people have been talking about, that you are not capable to handle the elections, it is what is happening on the ground. People are spending 1 hour, spending 2 hours just to get one document.
No, I think
meaning you are not capable at all.
No, I think you're missing the gist of things. It's not about the rhetoric of who's incompetent, who's competent, and so on.
What is incompetence? If you can define that term.
Excuse me, let me finish.
To do what is right.
Exactly. Let me finish. When you look at the challenges that are there, and we want to focus on the challenges without looking at the bigger picture, what is it that is trying to be achieved? And you focus on that narrow perception, saying, hey, because I spent 2 hours at the queue, then that is incompetence. That is a very narrow thinking. And if you look at, you basically pick the narrative that is there on social media and you apply it to an institution, that is very narrow thinking. What we are doing as an institution is to build the democracy of our country. The process that the Commission is doing now is a process that is based on a lot of reviews that have been undertaken. We wouldn't be here if we didn't undertake a lot of robust reviews and take into consideration a number of stakeholder concerns. It's not just like the Commission woke up one night and said, okay, this is the process we're going to take. Part of electoral management entails that as a Commission, you need to look at what did you do in the past. How best did it work? How do you build on that? But it's not just about building on that. How do you ensure that the principles of democracy, credibility, transparency are upheld so that when it comes to the conduct of an election, then you're able to stand tall as an EMB and say, yes, we've conducted free, fair, and transparent, credible elections. When the process is done and over, and the numbers are out, the registration process is concluded, then one can come and say, okay, the Commission, this is what you have set up for yourself. Have you met what you had set up for yourself? If yes, thumbs up. If no, then you have failed. But you can't come now and say, because day 4, one stood on a queue, and those aspects are being rectified. No, I think that's a bit unfair. But we do understand the frustrations that the citizens are going through.
Maybe lectures.
And we're not denying those frustrations.
Right.
The point is, how do you move forward from where we are? Because if we start here, especially this time, which is a very precious time, we start looking at all the things that are going wrong without looking at what is it that we can do for our country. How do we improve on what is prevailing? We will spend the whole night, and at the end of this interview, we would have yielded nothing positive for the nation.
Right. What was the logic really for you in the first place not to send maybe 2 or 3 officers at one polling station, or stream as it is called? But you decided to send only one officer to be attending maybe to 5,000 people, could be 500 people and the likes. You didn't foresee that?
That is not uniform. And I must correct that. That is not uniform. The deployment takes into account a number of parameters. You have certain areas that would have 3, 4. You would have other stations that are manned by one person. And like I said, when you look at the process when it was done, 2015, 2016, and what is currently on the ground, this is a very robust plan, almost triple the deployment. And this is how it's been done. The difference is that for this time around, there's a lot of spotlight, and understandably so, because of the closeness to the elections. In the past, this was not the instance, but also in the past, it was because it was an updating process. And it worked well. And this time around, we are doing a robust process. And we did invest quite heavily in ensuring that that is done. And of course, there are lessons being learned. And we are not sitting idle when we face these challenges. This is why I said we are building on that. And I'll share, if you allow me to get now into what it is that we are doing as a commission. First, on the human resource part, we do realize that most of our staff have been overrun in terms of the numbers that are coming in. What are we doing to ensure that those numbers are beefed up? We are, like I've just said, beefing up the human resource in terms of deployment, where we've seen that there's high turnaround, especially in terms of the numbers that are going there. We are deploying both in terms of human resource and additional kits where possible. That is being done. There are also measures that we'll start seeing, we'll start implementing, we'll be rolling out very progressively, starting from Lusaka, in addition to the beefing up, which is obviously the immediate aspect, because most of the citizens have called out, stakeholders have said, the people that we have deployed are not enough, based on the turnout, which I said it's a good problem for us. In addition to that, how do we ensure that we mop up everybody that has turnout? That we don't take advantage of the goodwill that has been demonstrated by our Zambian citizens. We will also be opening, for your information, 24/7 registration centers very soon. This will be announced, I'm sure, by tomorrow. You'll start getting these. They will be set up in Lusaka, provincial centers, and we'll start spreading these out. There are also a number of measures in terms of increased numbers that will be registration hours for those that are not high volume centers. But in addition to that, we're also going to introduce shifts, because also our staff are being overwhelmed. And these also need to rest. They're not machines. They work like you and me. They need to ensure that they're fresh the next time they get to the set. So there are all those measures that we are putting in place. But also very important is information. We are ramping up on publicity to ensure that people understand the different processes that they need to do. Starting with, for example, the deployment schedule, where they need to go. And talking about the deployment schedule, one must also know that in this time around, you can register from anywhere to vote from anywhere. You don't need necessarily go to your polling station. So you can register here, go and just mention that you're going to vote from Chipata. That is the flexibility that is being accorded. That is important around the deployment schedule. But also the deployment schedule is such a way that nobody within that vicinity will at no point, despite the movement of the kids, be unable to access the services. The services will be available for the whole entire 30 days. The kids will be rotating within a catchment area, which is the ward in this case, servicing those polling stations in there. And you find that the deployment of those kids, again, is dependent on per capita when you're looking at eligible population, to ensure that those numbers are captured. Well calculated, very scientific. So you look at the numbers, how many kids do we require to be able to mop up these eligible population in this particular catchment area? And they are allocated across the country. So these will start increasingly being rolled out, and we should be able to start seeing smoothening up of the process. But of course, in addition to people, our registration officers getting acquainted to the registration process. So we're very confident. Again, allow me to thank the citizens. They should not relent. The start might have been rough, but they should not relent. We are doing our very best as a commission to ensure that we facilitate and provide for them a conducive environment to come and register.
Interesting. And I'm glad that you've almost answered some of the questions that I had here. But I'll go further and just read one question coming from, of course, one of our viewers that sent this. I think we thought it was imperative for us to give it to you. And the question is saying, Mr. Nshindano, where did you get to get the astronomical mortality rate, which spells that 1.5 million people have died so far?
That's simple. We have Zambia Statistical Agency. But before that, again, for those that have been following, this is why I'm saying that where we are at now, it's not an issue of accident or the commission dreaming, sitting in a boardroom and say, oh no, let's do this now. No, it's a process of reviews, very rigorous reviews. Look back, 2016, how did we do? What were the challenges in 2016? You recall one of the key issues was the register in 2016, which gave birth to an audit. Within that audit, one critical component involved the issue of deceased persons. That audit already provided numbers. By then, we had over 485,000 deceased. There were extrapolations that were done, extrapolating to about 700,000 in there. And of course, Zambia Statistical Agency, based on the parameters that were there, have indicated over 1.4 million in the current register. So even when you're talking about 6.6 of the current register, you're in fact talking about 5.2 million. That is the current registered voters currently. Those are the valid ones.
Right. Others are worried that looking at the pace in which the exercise is being conducted or is moving at, it is possible that you might not even get the 6 million voters that we have so far, all right, or from the old register. You might even get less than the number of voters you want to get. Are we far-fetched from the 9 million voters you are imagining?
Well, that would be a very undesirable result, most definitely. The prudent thing is to ensure that, as a commission, we beat what is currently prevailing, at the minimum. We beat, but of course we need to mop up the 8.8 million. And this is why we are thanking the citizens. We were very worried at the beginning of the exercise that citizens will not be able to turn up. That was our biggest worry. Because we did say, on our part as a commission, we'll do our level best to ensure that every single citizen is registered. And we remain committed to that. This is why we're saying, even when we're putting in these measures, we're even going as far as now setting up 24/7 registration centers, so that when you knock off here after working late, instead of going straight home at midnight or 01, you can say, let me pass through the registration center. You have yourself registered. You don't have to panic and say, no, the registration center is closing at 18 hours. That's the essence of doing that. And we can only plead, again, to the citizens, please do not get demoralized by this start. The Commission is doing its very best. Please continue with the spirit that you are doing. We do understand the frustrations. I myself understand that frustration. I would not want to stand in a queue even for more than an hour. I want to ensure I get there, I register. Some of the things that the citizens can also help us speed up this process is also by pre-registering online. Because it also shortens the process. You don't have to spend more time giving your details and your registration officer asking you questions, okay, nabadwality and all those things, and no, these details are not correct and all those things. Once it's approved on the system, all we need now is for you to come with your ID and we capture your biometrics. And allow me also to clarify, because there's been this confusion already when it comes to the pre-online registration. We did set up registration centers that are dedicated to pre-online registration exercise. We'll do more in terms of publicity. I do acknowledge on that front. We could have done better so that people know exactly, if I've done pre-online, where do I go? But even when you go to a center that is doing the normal physical registration, and I must mention that every center can do both, can process both the pre-online and can also process the physical registration when you and I get there. So you don't have to worry on that part. But it would be ideal.
We need to get worried, Mr. Nshindano, and it's very embarrassing that the Commission seems to be reactive as opposed to being proactive. Because all these measures you are discussing now, they were supposed to be put in place prior to this, interview.
Allow me to finish, please, before you interject.
Finish.
This is why I'm saying that even now, the center is able to process both the pre-online registration and the physical registration.
Right.
Where we have...
Which wasn't there before?
No, it was there from the beginning. This is why I'm saying we could have done better in terms of communication, publicity, so that people understand. But if I did pre-online registration, where do I go? But if I get to a center, for example, those that were doing both, you would have two kits. One kit is dedicated to processing pre-online registration. The other kit will be doing the physical registration. But that has not happened because everybody would get in a queue. But also we've had citizens...
And that is because of you, not so?
Yes, definitely. But also we've had citizens where if one is in a queue and didn't do pre-online registration and one who did pre-online registration goes to the dedicated, they'll say, there's Nabwela first. Why muni jumpila? You know, when you even have a dedicated area. So again, that is about voter education for people to understand the importance and the difference. To know that, okay, there is a dedicated area. When no one has taken the effort and initiative and the trouble indeed to do pre-online registration, they need to ensure that they enjoy the benefits. And this is what we're talking about. That when you do your pre-online registration, it will be simple for you to do the registration process. It will be much faster. So even this time around, and again, allow me to clarify, the kits do not require a network. We keep hearing these things that no, we went and there was no network and so on. They operate without network. They're designed in such a way that the data for pre-online registration is downloaded on those machines after a certain period of time, and one will go there will not require to be connected to a network for them to process that. So we hope that that can be clarified, but also that information is being sent to our registration officers. You need to also realize that the Commission is not decentralized. It heavily relies on the local authority. The people that are put in place that will delegate this authority are the local authorities, and like I said, you have different capacity levels in terms of the processing. Some are extremely brilliant and some are catching up, and there's that incremental progression. And not to take away anything from any of them, they are doing an extremely brilliant job under the circumstances.
Let's imagine, CEO here, that you do not or you fail to get a 6 million threshold as we speak. What will happen? Well, of course, your target is to get or to capture 9 million voters, but we are trying to bring you down because of the chaotic manner and the way this process is being conducted. Let's imagine you fail to get a 6 million of voters. What will happen?
No, I don't think we will fail.
What will happen? I want us to imagine.
No need for imagination. We are doing voter registration now. And we have just started. And based on the projections, if we do and indeed ensure as a commission we do what we need to do, we'll be able to capture. We are not short of citizens registered. What are we short of? Is the resource for us to ensure that we mop up the citizens. Citizens, as we speak now, in most of these centers are busy queuing up. So why shouldn't we meet that target? It's now for the commission. The onus is on the commission, which I'm now committing, that we do our level best. Where we need to beef up on resource, we do that. What measures do we need to put in place, we do that, so that we capture the required number of citizens. Very, very important. And we must do that. We shouldn't be setting ourselves up for failure. Why should we be doing that? Like I said, this process is very, very important. And people must realize that what the Commission is doing is not just about the 2021 general elections. And a lot of people are missing it on that part. It's about building our democracy as a country. There are a lot of things that we are looking at building, both the institution and the system itself. There are a lot of reviews, there are a lot of concerns that were raised by stakeholders, which the Commission has fully taken and integrated. Stakeholders, political parties, observers, ourselves as a Commission, and we are trying to improve on that. And it's not just about short-sightedness, saying, okay, this doesn't fit well with this political party or with a particular stakeholder, then let's not do it. We must be futuristic. And this is how you can develop a country. Based on any parameter, even when you're looking at national development, the moment you start looking at it from a short-term perspective, saying, okay, no, because it's me who's there now, I just need to ensure I look good within this particular period of time. You definitely are not doing the nation justice. And this is what the Commission is aiming at. How do we build our democracy? How do we build our institution as Electoral Commission of Zambia? Post-2021, what kind of system are we going to live in terms of the registration exercise, but also that is going to allow to build on that to get into a number of aspects that we've been calling for that will facilitate, for example, e-voting, that will facilitate, for example, diaspora voting. A lot of our diaspora community has been crying that they can't participate in this very important democratic practice. And these are some of the changes you need to ensure that you do. If you look at some of the jurisdictions that we have in the country, are extremely large. You need to take into account those parameters. How do you ensure that you facilitate for effective service delivery in terms of electoral services? Those have to be considered. Let's not just narrow ourselves to saying, okay, 2021, what happens now? We need to look at it holistically in terms of a democratic dispensation as a country and build on it.
Most Zambians, Mr. Nshindano, feels that I think your institution really is not serving its purpose. You know, I can give you a number of examples with regards to why I was asking you as to what will happen if you fail to meet or to capture just 6 million voters. You know, it's because of the way the process is being, handled at the moment. And mind you, you've decided to get rid of the old register, all right? And that old register was actually done within a period of maybe we can say 10 years or so. But really, we don't know what miracle you want to perform, Mr. Nshindano, the Chief Electoral Officer of the Commission, as well as Justice Chulu here, that you can capture 9 million voters within 30 days. And so far, 1 week is almost ending. What you've exhibited is failure, for lack of better words again.
Yeah, no, I think it's unfortunate, and colleagues in the media, you need to help us. I think this narrative of always bringing out a negative narrative, especially around governance and the institutions of governance, is not the right approach. You need to look at things holistically. What is it that we are trying to achieve? Like I said, if you focus on the challenges, you have a very narrow perspective of what it is that we are trying to achieve as a country, and indeed in terms of democracy building. Because one spent a long time in a queue does not entail failure of the system. It is a challenge that is well acknowledged on the part of the Commission, and a challenge that the Commission is really working on in terms of building. And that is the narrative we need to work towards. And it's extremely worrying on the part of the Commission, and personally myself. When you look at the Electoral Commission of Zambia, it is one of those institutions, not just in Africa but around the world, that is held in high esteem. We have a lot of electoral management bodies that come to learn about how Zambia is doing things, how we've been pioneers in democracy building. But unfortunately, increasingly, there is that tendency to try and break down that institution of governance. Institutions of governance need to be strengthened. You need to say, okay, here you are not doing well. How do you ensure that you build those institutions by providing very objective and concrete positive criticism to say this is how you can move forward. When you start narrowing it down to say Nshindano is doing this or Justice Chulu is doing this, you are missing the point. Because what you're trying to do now and what we will be doing is basically inculcating a seed in our citizens of mistrust and of course a perception that is not founded. And that erodes a lot from the credibility of electoral processes. Because even when we come to 2021, and one stakeholder in terms of what they want to achieve, results don't go their way, what do they say? That the institution is compromised. When in fact what is being presented is a legitimate result of a legitimate process where one wins. And this is the objective of the Commission. The Commission does not side with anybody in terms of who should win or who shouldn't win. At the end of the day, we will endorse what the citizens say. And all the processes that we are doing have to lead up to that. We are saying, what is it that needs to be put in place? Firstly, to prepare for the 2021 elections, but also how do we build our institution as Electoral Commission of Zambia? But beyond that, overall, as our most cherished democracy as a country. And we need to work together with all the stakeholders, political parties, yourselves, colleagues in the media, point them out. We are not shy from criticism, not at all. And this is why we're even acknowledging some of the flaws that we have identified, even as we start. We are saying, yes, there's been a challenge in human resource. There's been a challenge in terms of the time it's taking one to register. And we are rectifying.
And this is why, of course, we are also reporting to you what we have so far discovered on the ground. And I want you to understand that the questions I'm giving to you are not my personal questions, but these are the questions that are coming from the viewers. I did mention in my preamble to say, I've got all these questions that came from our viewers.
Correct.
That's why I'm giving to you as they came like that.
Correct.
Riding on your point where you say the commission is not, has no powers to determine who should win or should lose in this case, I want you to make it clear, because there are also a notion or allegation that the commission, all what is going on right now, the irregularities are being done deliberately so that you could disadvantage the opposition. To be straight to the point, that people feel that you connived with those in power to ensure that you disadvantage the opposition, more especially in their strongholds.
Well, in the beginning, I think you did allude to the fact that our appointing authority, His Excellency the President, was not happy with us. So I think that should answer your question. If he wasn't happy with us, then how are we advantaging him over the others? And when you look at the challenges that are being faced, they are nationwide. Both the ruling and opposition strongholds, as it were, if there's such a term as stronghold. Because citizens have the right to choose a leader of their choice, regardless of where they are. And for us, like I said, we have a very strong constitutional mandate, and this is to deliver credible elections. And we endorse the citizens' choice, regardless of who wins. We'll do our role, we'll perform that to the best of our ability. We are not perfect by any means. We'll have challenges on the way, and we'll attempt to build consensus. We engage stakeholders, and we continue engaging stakeholders. We had on Monday, I did engage members of parliament. They did come through from the opposition. I continue engaging. I've engaged members of parliament from the ruling. I've engaged chiefs. I've engaged stakeholders that are concerned. They keep bringing these issues to us, and we are looking at how do we resolve them. The concerns are real, and they are cross-sector in terms of who's raising those issues. And we will do our level best as a commission to ensure that we rectify that. But the notion that the commission is doing what they're doing because of the ruling party, I think that is unfounded, and something that the commission really does not do. We have a clear constitutional mandate, and we will perform and continue to do that from an independent perspective. And we'll do it to our level best. And all we can ask is, especially to the citizens, those that are queuing up, for patience. And please, we thank them again. It's not easy to queue up. You have heard our call, which we are very, very grateful. I cannot reiterate that, for turning out. You should have been running your business. Somebody should have been in a barber shop. Our mothers should have been selling, or in a hair salon, and so on, but they're taking off enormous hours instead of fending for their families to go and stand in a queue. We are not blind to that. And this is why we are saying we need to put in measures, and those measures need to be robust enough that we capture. We will provide updates to the nation, like I said. We will be providing these updates once we're done with the phases that we put in place. After every phase, we provide the data. We see how we are doing. If we are doing very good, we will pat ourselves on the back, saying we're on the right track. If we are falling short, we will say, okay, what do we need to do to ensure that we still meet the target? And that's how you should be able to respond to the environment.
Others have thrown mud at you, alleging that Patrick Nshindano, now the man that the people of Zambia trusted during his time in the civil society organization, he has changed. It's not the same face that they are seeing on TV, or no, the same smile that they are seeing from you. You are the man of a different color as we speak right now. Others say you are presiding over an institution which is very arrogant, people that can't take advice. The issue of 7 days mobile voter registration as well, people have advised you to say, why can't you extend? What's so difficult about it? But for you, you feel that if you compromise, then you are going to lose something. What could be your response to that? Why is the commission very arrogant?
Well, I don't know about the term arrogant. Is Nshindano the same Nshindano people know? It's definitely the same. Right. One of the things that I'll tell you, even for getting into my role, is to contribute to my nation. There are many of us that would rather sit back in our comfort zone and say, okay, because I'm comfortable here, I do not receive the bashing. And even when I took up the role, there were many up to now that were questioning, how do you get into that role? It's a compromised role. Have you been corrupted and so on? But you need to look at what is it that you're doing for your nation. And my passion has always been that. If you look at my track record, wherever I've worked, I've endeavored to do my job diligently. And will continue doing that. I'll do the right thing. As long as I do the right thing, my conscience will remain clear. And as it stands now, I'm quite confident. Like I said, I'm not a perfect human being by any means. But all the measures that we're doing as a commission are meant well, in earnest, to try and build on the democracy of our nation, to try and build on our institutions. Governance institutions are extremely critical for any nation. Once you kill your governance institutions, you undermine your governance institution, you're done for. Electoral management bodies are one of those key at the center of stability of any nation. And you don't look at it from a short-term perspective. Once you start looking at it from short-term perspective, then you're also going to miss it as an EMB. This is why I even took length to say, why are we where we are now? It's not an accident. The commission did not sit in a boardroom drinking coffee and wake up in the morning and say, hey, this is what we're going to surprise the Zambian people with. No. It was a long process of rigorous reviews. What happened in the past?
When you say process, let me cut you shortly. When you say process with who? Because most of these decisions that have come out, such as the 7 days mobile voter registration, have been denied by, the players themselves. Like the NDC have made it clear to say they were not part and parcel of this decision. It's something that you just came up with. You like consultation.
Yeah, let me come to that. First, before I even answer the 7-day issue, let me talk about process, because this is very, very important for our democracy building as a country. An electoral management body, you need to look at where you've come from. That is center for moving forward, especially when you've had a very big elections like a general election. You look at the general election, what were the issues that were raised by stakeholders? And stakeholders, this is cross stakeholders. You're looking at multi-sectoral, political parties, observer missions, indeed the citizens, and a number of things that bring out these issues and say, here you did well, positive, keep it up, build on this. Here you didn't do well, you need to improve on this issue. And you need to listen as a commission. If you don't make those corrective measures, you end up in trouble very, very soon. And this is the attempt the commission has been doing. So we did take those reviews. And these recommendations, like you are saying, they are not done in isolation. These are recommendations from stakeholders, including political parties. The institution, for example, the issues that I talk about in terms of the audit, including the register. And I don't want to start dwelling on those things because that's another topic altogether. You're fully aware that the register was also part of the Constitutional Court petition for the president. Now,
indeed,
the same register that you want, that will be contested in the Constitutional Court. So you need to learn from those issues. When you learn from those issues, you say, how do you build on those? There are security concerns that were raised with regards to the integrity of the register, which we have embedded in the current system, upgraded those. There are concerns with regards to boundaries, which we have embedded on those. So this process is very, very critical. And that process also informs where you're going. With regards to the registration process, unfortunately, it has also been hit by the environment which we're in, which has also not helped. This is COVID now. As you're fully aware, we're supposed to commence voter registration in May this year. Unfortunately, that's the time the country just basically shut down. And therefore, it shortened the time. But we are also faced with another...
From 2016, we've never had COVID.
Exactly.
The COVID just came last year, in March about some...
I'm glad you raised that. And I'm glad you raised that. And this is why I say, when people are looking at things, you don't look at them in isolation, especially when it comes to electoral processes. There was delimitation process before that. You cannot undertake registration before delimitation. When you are changing electoral boundaries, you need to change electoral boundaries because once you register and you change electoral boundaries, then you have to go back to register again. So there was those processes, and we've always been calling. I remember when electoral boundaries delimitation was happening, that's when I was joining the commission, and at least I can speak from a very confident and informed point of view because I was there. I remember us calling on stakeholders that walk with us, do not remain behind from this point on, understand the developments of where we are going, and this narrative has been consistent. But we decide to isolate the information. But nonetheless, I think that is not material. Right. Coming to the deployment, of course, like I said, we are also working with a constitutional challenge. We have the 12th August, which is enshrined as the date for the polls. And we have to work backwards. What do we need to put in place to ensure that come 12th August, we are ready for the polls? Right. And the timeline is critical. After registration, there are many processes, the publication, the verification, the deduplication processes, and indeed the certification that has to be used for nomination and so on in readiness for the polls. So there are all those processes, and the deployment and the registration takes into account all those processes.
Right. So I'll hand over this document to you. There are a lot of questions actually that we could finish.
It's very unfair.
But I'll hand over this document to you. There are a lot of questions that came from the viewers, so it will be wise for you to go and read as you go back to the office with the Justice Chulo himself.
Great, great. No, I'll definitely do. And he's a very honorable man. I think it's very unfortunate that such an honorable man is every day attacked. And from a point of ignorance, really. People need to get to understand what the institution is all about and what the people are doing in there. I can tell you all the people that are at the commission are people of very, very, very high integrity. That I can attest to.
You were scheduled to delimitate constituencies. How far are we?
Delimitation wards, polling districts, polling stations, renaming of polling stations, and all that has been done. What, of course, is now under the rocks is because of the constitutional amendment process, which has not gone through. So, in terms of constituencies, that will either not be affected, depending on what the decision of the executive will be, because it was part of the constitutional amendment process. Because the number of constituencies is enshrined in the Constitution, 156, and for you to change that, you need to amend the Constitution. So whether a different route to be taken to do that, that is not within our mandate. We have done, and the report has been presented to the executive. But for the other parameters which are also critical for voter registration, starting from the wards right up to the smallest unit, the polling station, that has been done. Gazette notices have already been filed.
So thank you so much for coming. We don't take you for granted. I know that you are a very busy man. We've been trying to bring you here for the past, I think, 3 months or so. But we're glad that you are here. And I will challenge you that make sure that you engage us in terms of conveying the message that you want. You know, at times it could be some of those issues that people don't get the information that they want.
Indeed.
Yeah.
No, we'll definitely do that. We'll try our level best. But of course, I cannot be everywhere. We have our team, which will be able to be available. But like always, people want to see the CEO. There are others who equally carry the same message other than the CEO.
Right.
So you will forgive me because I need to also attend to many other equally pressing issues. But we endeavor and commit. I've always tried to make room and space for my media colleagues. You will remain my colleagues. We go a long way, and we always interact. Thank you so much. Again, allow me to thank the public for turning out in numbers. They should not relent. Please continue turning up. We will try our level best as a commission to smoothen the process, and also thank my staff. We are looking into your plight to ensure that we lighten the burden.
Thank you so much. CEO, once again, we have to go. Thank you. Dear viewers, we end our discussion here. This has been a special program with me, Innocent Piri IP. Thank you so much to all the viewers that have managed to watch us and also listen to the answers provided by Mr. Nshindano. We appreciate you. May God bless Zambia. May God bless Mother Africa. Remember, up next is the Fanas featuring Iris Kaingu. Join Charity Mtonga. Good night.